What is up, comic fam, and welcome to the Legion of Comics. Excuse me, I'm Mark. It's Sunday. This is That Week's In. The spoiler-filled look back at this week in comics and more, but before we dive into any of that, check this out. So let's bring in our panel. Hailing from the largest state this side of anywhere, we have none other than Ryan, the new guy.
Well, we got to battle it out with Alaska, but we're definitely the biggest, so
still winning.
Don't be fooled.
Hailing from the next sector over, none other than Mr. Paul Cook in the building. How are you?
Good. I'm actually from the largest sector in the universe, so
that's cool. You battling it out with Alaska too?
That's right.
Well, let everybody know, Chris, the comic vet, sends his love. He's schedule conflict happened at the last minute with him, so he's not going to be able to make it tonight. But he sends his love, and be sure to check out two hot picks that he posted today, because you should never go a day without seeing his Canadian face. If you can't see it here live tonight, you can still catch two cool guys, two hot picks. He would appreciate everybody checking that out, as would I.
That makes it sound like he has more than one face, like he has an American face too. When he comes
he does.
The border,
He definitely.
It's in his 23andMe.
Yeah, I've checked it. Say hey to some of the chat real quick. We got Glenn 2K12. What is going on, my friend? Shop for Comics. Shop made an appearance on Rob's channel earlier today. That was really cool to see.
Cool. Doesn't miss a beat. So something Rob's channel in the shop.
Yeah. Shop for Comics popped up on Rob's channel today. Rob went to a local comic convention thing and scored some cool stuff. And I believe that, I don't know if Shop was just on there because he opened the panel to people. I don't know if Shop went as well. I don't know if he's in the same area, but Rob found some cool stuff. El Green Machine is in the building. How are you doing? Trev, the shipping guru, how goes it? Hello, hello. Mr. DJ Links is in the building.
What?
Waited since Friday night for Chris's Vanish review. Yeah, and then he's not even here. Oh my God.
He vanished.
Yeah, so
must have been good.
Chris was he hopped on the panel with us. Nick, he filled in for Nick in the mix, and he was asked about Vanish, and he wouldn't say. Like he said, he was polite about it. Well, if you want to hear my review, check out Sunday night at Week's In. And he got asked numerous times through the stream. We kind of kept going back to it, and he wouldn't budge on it. And now we'll never know. Now we'll never know.
I forgot that was even coming out this past week.
Iggy, my man, how are you doing? Yeah, that's the new Donny Cates book for those that don't know.
And Ryan Stegman too, right? It's both of them again, Ryan?
Yeah. I heard Ryan Stegman on a podcast this past week. Obviously that's what he was there for, so he talked quite a bit about it. But it sounds cool. But
there's a lot of New York City Comic-Con exclusives for it.
Yeah, that's the other thing I've heard about it, though, is there's like 9 million covers for this book. So,
yes, because the timing of it, being so close to the con. Is the con next weekend?
It's the weekend after, I think, right? It's the 8th, I think, right?
Every week I ask if it's next week. Still don't get a yes.
You just got to play the odds, man.
Yeah, huge shout out to Becker. Huge shout out. Not this week, but next week. Both of my uploads for that week are associated with Mr. Mike Becker there. He sent me an AOK, and he also bought a $100 mystery box from him on that charity auction that Alan Rue did. And speechless. I was absolutely speechless. Can't wait for people to see it.
Nice.
So there's some cool stuff to talk about this week. We had a brand new Star Wars show drop. We had the next chapter of She-Hulk, the next chapter of Stargirl. I have not caught up on House of the Dragon yet, and I have not caught up on Rings of Power. There's just too much, and the House of the Dragon is extremely R-rated, so that kind of limits when I'm able to watch it in my week. And Rings of Power just didn't really blow me away, so I'm just going to end up watching it when I'm out of stuff to watch, kind of thing. Ryan, are you watching anything?
No.
Perfect. Paul,
Yeah.
catch us up on Rings of Power if you caught this week.
Yes, there. It was another. I thought it was another really good episode. There was again another callback, seemingly to a character from the Peter Jackson trilogy.
Which one?
Um, well, I don't know. Do you guys remember The Stranger? Have you both watched it from? Remember from in the very first episode, that stranger that fell from the sky, right? It was at the very end, and he
Gandalf?
was. Well, that's he hasn't been called Gandalf, but he did basically he pulled kind of the same thing as a "you shall not pass" moment
Hmm.
in the episode.
I was really hoping that they wouldn't do Gandalf because that's just so far away from canon to do Gandalf. It's almost.
Yeah.
I was hoping it would be a
So
new character kind of thing.
again, they could still go another way, but it almost. I mean, I'm sure it was designed to make you think as though he's Gandalf. So. And then they've gotten more into the mithril, which is, if you remember in the Lord of the Rings, mithril was the ore the shirt that
Aragorn?
Frodo Baggins wore, right, in the cave, right. And so this goes back to the origin of mithril, basically, and how it is this mithril that is supposedly going to save the elven race.
Is that what was in the box that the dwarves had?
Exactly. It was a little piece of mithril ore.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
Hmm. And then I saw Stargirl, and I didn't see House of Dragon, but I saw Andor and She-Hulk. So I caught up on almost everything.
Well, She-Hulk, let's hit that quick because that'll be quick. It was like probably the least amount of content in an episode we had yet. It was just her attending a wedding. It was very pointless. And they even addressed that with her little moment, how she breaks the fourth wall. She even literally addresses that this episode's about to be pointless. Get over it, and it was.
Yeah, I mean it had some amusing moments, but it really did nothing to further any of the story in any way. So um, if it suddenly didn't appear on like any like DVD collections, no one would ever know that anything happened.
Yeah, if they omitted this episode, it changes
Right.
nothing from the story.
Yep.
It was kind of goofy. It's kind of goofy. I missed that episode. What was it? Last week's episode was the one I really enjoyed. I think it was crazy. It took such a dynamic shift.
Yeah.
It just went from actually being like showing us what this can be and still be funny and all that. There's just nothing. And everyone was expecting and waiting and hoping to get Daredevil this episode. They teased him in that last episode with the end of the show kicker, and we didn't get him. So maybe next week, obviously. Just hopped on and enjoyed the time. Oh, okay, cool. So yeah, I am looking forward to Daredevil. I'm afraid that it's just going to be just a little cameo moment, just him flipping in and doing nothing at this point, because there's not really much time for him to do anything more than that.
Yeah, and his series is probably at least more than a year away by the time they get everything filmed and everything.
Didn't they
I
say
read that they weren't
2024?
yeah, they weren't even supposed to start filming until next year. So
Bold move, weird move, but he's a lawyer, so we'll see. They could have at least had Matt Murdock pop up for something. I don't know. Brian LCS is in the building. What is going on, good sir? Be sure to check out cbcawards.org. Brian puts on the CBC Awards, the comic book community award show. You can go vote for a bunch of cool channels there, and be sure to watch because it was a fun show last year. It was hilarious. Brian put a lot of work into it. Those skits were great, but good stuff. Brother John is in the building. Hello, hello. Pop said Mr. Immortal was the best part. Yeah, that was pretty funny. I thought that was pretty funny. Mr. Immortal was in there with all of his previous wives, girlfriends, relationships, and having to do litigation on what they were owed. But needless to say, there's just really much to talk about. Whatever. Stargirl and Andor. I enjoyed both of those thoroughly. Start with Andor. This is the brand new Star Wars show from Disney Plus. It's going back to the character we were introduced to in Rogue One, A Star Wars Tale, which is one of my favorite Star Wars films out of all of them, out of all 50 of them, however many they've made now. Absolutely loved it.
It's the best Star Wars.
Yeah, it's just amazing. So getting to go back to really see a story focusing around Andor and how he comes to be was very intriguing to me. It doesn't have to do with the Skywalkers and the higher end politics, just an individual in the Star Wars universe, just straight sci-fi opportunity. And they did that. It was well written. It was played out well. The pacing of the first 2 episodes, I was very concerned. Very concerned. It was a snooze fest. I'm not going to lie. The first 2 episodes could have been 1 episode, and it still would have been a horrible pilot because it doesn't really do anything to drive the narrative of the series. But we do get all of that in that 3rd episode, and they do that episode really well. I was very excited for the way it played out and what's to come. So I'm all in for Andor. I think that 3rd episode redeemed the first 2 enough to keep me excited.
Yeah, in some ways, when we got, thanks, Jeff. In some ways, when we got to the end of the 2nd episode, I kind of said to myself, okay, you know what? I know it's kind of telling me how the woman ended up and Cassian ended up together, but what was the point of it, really? Kind of
didn't need to know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm excited for where it goes from here. He's a bad guy. I thought that was cool. Like right from the start, that intro was great. Like he's definitely a troubled, jaded, complicated character, and it shows.
Yeah. And now he's on the run with the professor from Thor.
Mm-hmm. That's really good. I got I ran to pick my wife up dinner. I wasn't hungry, but I got a slushie. And I haven't had a slushie from Sonic in years. It's delicious.
Yeah, I think, and obviously, they set up the guy, the security guy, to kind of be the baddie who's going to be chasing after Cassian throughout the galaxy. So
this felt very BBC, also the British broadcast company. It felt like something that they made. Everyone had like British or Scottish accents, and the police force that was chasing him felt like what are they called in London? Like bobbies or something?
Bobbies, yep.
Yeah, it felt like a bunch of bobbies.
I mean, I love the way that they played how they escaped and everything. It was very. I thought the scene in the warehouse was incredible with everything falling and everything.
Mm-hmm.
It was visually great, I thought. And then how they got away from them at the chase, I thought was kind of ingenious too. So.
I'd say the same thing. It was all filmed in the UK. Oh, I wonder. It definitely felt like it.
Actually, this was the first time that you've ever heard a cuss word in a Star Wars property.
Did they cuss in here?
He said the word shit in one of the episodes. Yep.
Oh, wow, I went right over my head.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Ryan's like, did they?
What?
So Stargirl,
Get the
episode
pitchforks.
4? Was it episode 4 or 3?
Yes. No, 4. Evidence.
So this was probably the most low-key episode that we got yet. It was very chill. This was a calm after the storm. That last episode was insane, off the wall. Tons of fighting, tons of strife in the characters, and we kind of had a moment just to settle. We saw Starman just kind of coming to terms with where he is now, that he's kind of much like Captain America. He's a man out of time. He'd been dead for years, and he's coming back all these years later in a place where he's unfamiliar with, in a era he's unfamiliar with, and he's having a hard time just getting settled in and finding a purpose without being Starman, just as an individual. And all that weight came down on him in this episode. It's cool getting to see Dr. McNider come in and kind of like be kind of a voice of reason and everything. And at the same time, it still had that balance of seeing Dr. McNider hung up his cape, but he's still a doctor, and having to figure out who he was. That was kind of good, because like I've been worried like that he's just going to be a loose cannon, or he might be the bad guy in some way, but kind of seemed like we're getting past those kind of those feels with him. Courtney's kind of a horrible judge of character as well.
Yeah, we got a new suit for Sylvester. that he was given. We have the first display of the Icicle Sun's powers, basically. Um, we have there was one scale or one skin cell
Skin
that was
cells.
left behind, and we're supposed to believe that it was the dragon's daughter now at the end, because at the very end she kind of pulls her shirt by and you can see the scales. So she's literally turning into a dragon, it seems as though. And there was a call out to Ted Knight, which I thought was great too. Sylvester mentions Ted Knight. And then in the previews for next episode, again, there's something going on, obviously, with Sylvester. We don't know how he came back from although they do hint they do hint as though he was imbued with the power of the staff, and that's how he came back from the dead. But he's still, there's something because of his he has this huge temper that I still think is going to play into something is deadly wrong with him.
Do you think the whole him having the power of the staff infused in him is just a way for them to keep him and Stargirl on in the show together, even though there's only one cosmic staff?
Could be, but I don't remember who it was. Oh, it was Dr. Midnighter, who basically said that the staff didn't really bring him back from the dead, but it imbued him, and it basically, while he was dead, it basically healed him. And so it did in fact bring him back from the dead. So, but he never really died, I guess.
Yeah, but it's still my favorite TV show running right now, hands down.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that was pretty much it for that stuff. Any kind of news, any comic book news related stuff that dropped this week? I had nothing that's coming to my mind. More Black Adam snippet trailers are dropping that are just little shorts and stuff. Look phenomenal, every one of them.
I'm sure Ryan has seen all the trailers.
He won't stop watching the trailers. He sends me the links.
Once the levee breaks, Yeah.
I'm checking my social media to see if I actually posted any comic news. I did not. What was this?
There wasn't really a lot, no.
Nope. So let's start.
The solicitations were all last week, so.
Ryan, hit me with your list of what you read, since you don't get floppy, so I can.
You got all the same book? That's amazing.
Yeah, these are all variant covers. There's one letter off on every single cover.
Nice. I read Batman, Superman, Two-Face, One Bad Day, Black Adam, Duo, and Nightwing.
Black Adam, Duo, Nightwing. All right, so we got some that we read and some that you didn't. So the two Dark Crisis tie-ins you missed. You're not reading this round of Deceased?
Oh, that was the end of that was, oh man, that was incredible.
That whole book was insane. Ryan, you want to kick us off with Duo? Because I'm reading that vicariously through your reviews.
This was kind of a fire issue. Like, everything came to a head. We have 3 different factions. So I guess for anybody that's missed this so far, essentially this series is these 2 scientists. They were basically like dating and scientisting and everything. And they created this nanotechnology. And essentially, like, somebody tried to sabotage them in order to save their technology. They kind of sacrificed one of them. And so now both people are stuck inside one body, but they have like nanotechnology inside of them. So they can do things like create armor and create weapons, and they can like heal people of disease and stuff like that. And it just gives them like all these crazy powers, but also there's 2 people stuck in one head. And so we've seen like the female character, her body was basically sacrificed. So she's been kind of like taking control here and there. And in this episode, she pretty much hijacked Homeboy's body altogether. And so it was kind of interesting because you get like the combat of these 2 different personalities. Like they were in love, they were in sync when they were building this nanotechnology, but they honestly do have like two different perspectives and viewpoints on the world. One sees their technology for this, and the other one sees the world and technology this way. And so now that they're in like a tense situation, because we have these immortal gods and this like Elon Musk inventor that has basically created something just shy of their technology. And so he wants their technology to kind of up his stuff to the next level, you know? And so these two sides are like trying to get this technology and like stop all this stuff. So you got like this three-way fight, but now one team is basically split because they're two mentalities in one head. And so it was a good issue. Like there was a lot of different exchanges. There was a lot of different side switching and things going on. And it's always interesting to see one body having two different minds, like constantly switching back and forth, except the external world doesn't understand what's going on. And so they're like, oh, I'm on this side. And then all of a sudden it's like, but they're doing this thing. So like, that's not in line with us. So this was a cool issue because we saw a lot of the factions realign, and we kind of got more into what these like immortal creatures, like what their history is and what they're really after in the world. So yeah, this was a good issue. I was excited for it, and I think there's one more issue. So this is kind of leading us into the wrap up for whatever this series. I'm assuming it's setting up a whole universe at this point.
What are the Immortals after? What are those deity characters? Because I did see them introduced in that first issue. And what's their deal?
So they're essentially after like immortal life, because even though they're immortals, they need somewhere to exist. And so they basically are creating like balance throughout like all of time and the earth and everything. They don't want the planet destroyed, essentially. They don't want like humans to go like too far off the deep end and cause nuclear war, which kind of ties into the idea why there hasn't been an end all everything nuclear war in the past, you know? And so in this issue, they talk about how like sometimes their own, you know, like their own immortal kind, like will go crazy with power and stuff, and they have to put them down, you know. And so I kind of talk about like some of the different events and times throughout history that they've had to take people out that are technically immortals, but because they're so like drunk with power and stuff, they would end up causing an imbalance in the universe that would lead to the destruction of their world.
Are we seeing also crossing over to milestone stuff yet?
There haven't been any direct connections. There was that one scene. Now I'm trying to remember where it came from. I think it was in Blood Syndicate when Flashback like shows a projection of like the future, and one of the main characters of the Immortals in this book is in that battle scene. He's there with the sword down in the corner. So it definitely seems like they're going to cross over into the whole milestone thing at some point. We haven't really got enough yet to know exactly what the tie-in moment is, because this also takes place in San Francisco. So kind of weird to be that specific about where you're at if Dakota is like supposed to be in the Midwest somewhere. So I'm not sure how it's all going to cross over. I just know it's like labeled as the future. I hear it's pretty bright. Yeah. Well, it looks like we're fighting in hell, so call that bright. But yeah, it's supposed to be part of like this greater like milestone universe they're building. So we'll see what happens down the road if they cross over.
Paul, which one's first on your hit list?
I do.
So here's one that we all three read.
Yeah.
The second offering from the new Batman One Bad Day series of one-shots. Different villain, different issue, different creative team. This one features obviously the Riddler, written by Mariko Tamaki, who spent a good bit of time on Detective Comics before Ron V took over.
Two-Face.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Two-Face. I said the Riddler. I'm still thinking about the good one. Go ahead, Paul.
Okay. Basically, it was a good story. It was serviceable. It wasn't as good. It had a lot. It had big shoes to live up to with the last one. I thought the story for a Two-Face story was pretty good. One of the things that you and I had talked about before we got on was the one thing I was confused about is in each of the stories previously, meaning in the Killing Joke and then in the Riddler one, both the villain and someone else, whether it's in the original, whether it's Commissioner Gordon or Batman or Barbara Gordon or whatever, and in the Riddler one, whether it's the Professor or Batman or whatever happens to have a bad day, the villain here didn't really seem as though they had a bad day, and that to me is part of the DNA of what I thought these were supposed to be. Is the villain was supposed to have a bad day as well as someone else. There's always that duality, especially in a Two-Face story. You would think the duality of two people having a bad day would come along. But basically, in the story, you basically have Two-Face is in his supposedly in his space where he is he's controlling Two-Face, so he's more Harvey Dent as a DA, and his father is having an 88th birthday party. Remember that 2/8. That'll that's going to be important because he gets a note from someone we don't know who that says that
Yeah,
big things are coming up for his father's birthday, basically. And what happens is it ends up being Two-Face who basically poisons his dad, both the cake, and then he tries to poison all the guests as well. But Batman manages to take all the balloons and send them off into the atmosphere. But he basically poisons his dad, who ends up having this poison that does something to the nerves in half of his face, and he ends up basically looking like his son. And you end up with Two-Face saying basically, "I will always be Two-Face. You may think that I could be something else, but I will always be Two-Face." So. But again, it was a good story, not as good as the Riddler one. I don't know how. To me, this doesn't really fit into the one bad day type thing because his dad had a bad day, but that was pretty much it.
But for me, I feel a little bit the same and a lot different. As soon as all right. So the whole letter, the whole premise of the book is Batman trying to figure out who sent this letter to Harvey and try to stop something bad from happening at this birthday party celebration. From the moment he got handed that letter, I'm like, dude, it's clearly Two-Face.
Yeah. Yes.
The Two-Face book is clearly
He literally says, this letter was sent to my dad's office and I intercepted it. Mystery solved.
Yeah, mystery solved. And I think Mariko Tamaki is a fine writer, but did a terrible job with this book for a couple of things. It was a little self-serving, having numerous scenes with Officer Nakano and Mayor Nakano. Like you have Officer Nakano in the flashback, a character that Mariko created in Detective Comics, and then the unnecessary meeting of Harvey and Mayor Nakano giving Harvey a job is that they would never give Harvey a job as a district attorney again. Like that, I'm like, why do we need this scene with Mayor Nakano? It wasn't even relevant in the story after that. There's nothing relevant about it at all. Him going to Batman and explaining to his dad how he's just his dad's just a modest man and he just this and that. And then we find out he's not. He's a lustrous, rich socialite who the opposite of modest. Like nothing. Like there's a lot of inconsistency.
I was so confused about his character because Harvey goes to his home office and it's like clearly a pretty nice house, but maybe he's like a general contractor or something because he's dressed down like you would expect like a general contractor to be at home or something. Like he's all Al Bundy'd out, but then like whenever they have the party, it's like, no, he's like this big deal in Gotham. Yeah. Yeah. I was like, this is a weird character.
Where it said there was one line of dialogue that said Harvey. They're talking about Harvey pre-Two-Face before the attack, where he worked up from the bottom as just a blue collar guy who came up like, dude, he's clearly from money. So there was a lot of stuff like that was off, but as it stands, like if you look at the story layout, like the script is fine. It's nothing good. It's nothing bad. But this was an $8 book, and I did not get $8 worth out of it. It's a 60. I'm assuming this is a 64 pager, right?
Yeah.
This isn't an 80. It might be an 80. Is there page numbers on it?
No,
I
don't
think
think
it
so.
didn't feel like an 80. It felt like
Yeah.
this was not Superman Space Age.
right.
Yeah.
So I agree with you, Paul. I don't think it fit the. I think it had the DNA in it. This felt like it was. This could have just been Detective Comics issue insert number, like for a 2-issue story arc or something.
Yeah.
It's like I'm not trying to be like keep my expectations too high on these, but I'm keeping my expectations high on these.
Well, they set the expectations.
Yeah, yeah. Like
Yeah.
I didn't come up with these expectations. I read the last one. You know what I'm saying? And I know it's going to be a different creative team on all of them. And like him, love him, or hate him, I don't care. Tom King can write. You might not like what he writes. He can write damn good. He knows how to structure a story like most people dream. And like that last one was phenomenal. Alan Moore, same thing. That wasn't fair to put Mariko Tamaki up to that task. Mariko's like a fine writer, not that caliber writer yet. Mariko has not brought one body of work to print that gets her resume to a place where she's qualified to deliver a Two-Face story that's going to stand the test of time as a callback to a defining moment of who this character is. That just wasn't fair.
Yeah, and although we see the coin, I don't think we actually ever get a single flip of the coin.
Not flip.
Not
Wasn't
even
there
one flip
one?
in a Two-Face story.
Wasn't there one like whenever right at the end with the dad and stuff?
But
Batman
before he can even do it, the Batarang takes it out of his hand.
That's right. Yeah.
I thought Batman tackled him, like completely tackled him.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, basically I chimed in enough, but yeah, this was definitely middle of the road for me. It wasn't like you had said, if it was like Detective Comics, whatever, like it would have made a lot more sense. And maybe it was a script that Mariko had written and didn't get published. And so they were like, hey, we need a Two-Face story. Oh, I happen to have one in my back pocket. Like, go ahead, let's adapt it for this.
This story could have been any villain story.
Yeah, true.
Any villain story, just
yeah. Because honestly, it felt like it felt like a bunch of different scenes that was just like, okay, they have to have Two-Face in them somehow so that like it connects back to the fact that this is a Two-Face story. But like half of it didn't really make sense on that front. And like Paul said, like there's nothing one bad day-ish about it really. Like his dad gets murdered on his birthday. I mean, that's a bad day for him. But I
keep saying the Riddler, Two-Face was having a blast. He was happy. He's like, my plan worked.
Yeah, it was one good day for him. Like, and who is the Batgirl character? Is that spoiler?
That was Stephanie Brown, right?
Yeah, spoiler.
That felt really like ham-fisted to me. I was like, why did this character come out of nowhere and just like have a really strong opinion about nothing? That was kind of strange to me that they brought that character in so much. And then like, I don't even like, I mean, again, the mystery in this was terrible. Like Batman's out like gliding around, just like checking to see what's going on outside the building and doesn't catch like all the obvious things going on. I was like, you're not even a good detective, bro. Like, might as well hang up the cowl.
We have the whole building under surveillance, but in every single side of the building, the police officers are tied up nicely, mouths covered, and like, yeah, that escalated quickly.
And like,
Here we go.
Sounds way better than the book we read.
That's funny.
I will say I didn't hate the artwork in this.
Oh no, I thought the artwork was good. Some of those individual panels with Harvey's expression and everything, and a couple of I don't know if you saw, there's a couple of flashback panels that were really great too, like the one when Two-Face had Robin in the car at gunpoint, and the way that his face was drawn slightly different. The perspectives were great. A couple of the panels caught my attention.
Yeah, I thought the artwork was good. Had some good like animated series elements to it as well.
Do y'all know which character is next in the creative team on the character?
I want to say
in December.
It's either Penguin or Mr. Freeze, I think, is next.
I'm excited for Mr. Freeze. I don't know who's doing it, but that's a great character. Like you could just go back and do a flashback of just him losing his wife or something.
Yeah.
Like that character is defined by a bad day, you know. That's why
Right.
motivation.
Whoever got there got lucky.
I'm looking forward to Mr. Freeze and Bane specifically. I'm not too excited for Ra's al Ghul. I don't know what it is about Catwoman. She just doesn't intrigue me that much on her own. But I'm definitely going to be reading all of them. Absolutely.
It is the Penguin is next.
Who's writing?
Yeah. Isn't it like previewed at the end or
And
something?
it is your favorite author, John Ridley.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, this
bro. How does he get one? Did they just draw names out of a hat? Like what?
They had to set the bar real high.
I'll bet I know the bad day that the Penguin has. Just as Superman.
You think I Am Batman will show up?
Probably.
How is that book doing? I don't even ever hear anybody talk about it. But they keep making more of them, so I assume it's good.
He said Duggan is writing Mr. Freeze. Shoot me now. Who's Duggan?
Duggan? Jerry Duggan, I think his name.
Yeah, Jerry Duggan. Right.
What else did he write?
I don't know what else. He's
done some Marvel stuff. And did he maybe do some? No, I'm thinking of Cullen Bunn. I'm thinking of he did some Aquaman, but that was.
Well, they shouldn't have done a series of these. They should have just did Riddler one bad day, let it sit. Now we have Joker. Now we have Riddler. This doesn't make any sense. They should have let Tom write that one, and then we'll give us one next year or every 6 months or however often, you know. But they should have just given these to Tom.
Yeah,
writing the
or just like wait until somebody has a good idea for one of these characters and be like, hey, we should do this as one of those one bad day books we do every now and then, you know. Like the fact that they forced it just really showed in the second one, and I can't imagine it won't show in the next one.
Yeah. Well, what else did y'all read? Switch over to a solid book.
Going for the throat.
Oh, Paul with the damn.
That's clean.
Wow. And dude, for that being such a dynamic cover, they were in such a small part of the book, but man, it delivered.
Right.
Dan Moore, he's just incredible.
Dude, you're laughing, Ryan, but you haven't read Tom King's Batman run. We had Kite Man's One Bad Day. He gave us that, like legit. Like he made Kite Man a serious character.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I'm familiar with what he did for that character. I didn't know he had a whole one bad day to him. That's incredible.
Warlord is in the building. What is up, my friend? How are you? So, World's Finest, written by Mark Waid, drawn by the amazing Dan Mora. The fact that Dan Mora should be on one of the One Bad Day so that we can get an oversized 64 pages of just straight Dan Mora interiors. This guy is just phenomenal. This is issue 7. So issue 6 was kind of just a one-shot revisiting the events of Robin to get him back into the book proper. So this is kicking us off on our next story arc. We're past the Demon Nazah story. And now we're on to, what's this one called? Strange Visitor is the new story arc. This is chapter 1, Reckless Youth. Ryan, what'd you think?
Oh, man, I was into this one. This was everything cool about what they do with World's Finest, right? Like we got this weird like alt history kind of story setup thing. It kind of delivered on the promo images and stuff that they had released before the series started. And it was just like a cool, like, let's throw some DC history and mythos like into a blender and see what comes out. And we got something really cool. Like I enjoyed this book a lot. Definitely my read of the week.
It was fire. I do want to point something out. You see what's down there in the corner? Michael Keaton's Batmobile.
Oh, it sure is.
Thought it was pretty cool they did that. So the whole concept behind this one is it starts out of the familiar tale of what looks like Kal-El being sent off Krypton, but it's not. It's in Gotham City on a doomed planet where you see this futuristic family send their kid off in a rocket while the planet explodes, and he crash lands on Earth, where they Batman and Superman intercept it and find a scared kid in here, and he ends up having a reaction much like Superman would in our atmosphere, where his entire body is charging up, almost like Superman's heat vision would, and he's just melting everything around him. And they're just trying to figure out who he is, what's going on with him, get him to safety, and try to figure out what's what. They find out he's from a parallel world, which I thought was cool because this book takes place in an unspecific time in the past. You pick in the past kind of thing so that you can play with stories and continuity and everything. But this kid, and coming from a different planet in the multiverse, is what confirmed for the first time for Batman and Superman that the multiverse theory must be correct. I thought that was cool. So we're dealing just in a straight up, not crazy like multiversal thing where like Red Sun Superman can pop up or something. It's just one Earth. And this kid is the first sign from something else. And it was cool seeing the journey of them trying to get him comfortable and how he gets his uniform. And it was tragic watching that scene where he finds his counterparts of his parents on the planet. And it was very encouraging what they do with him toward the end.
Yeah, I loved it. The very beginning, the first couple of pages reminded me so much of All-Star Superman, if you remember. That's exactly the way Grant Morrison started his story. Doomed planet, desperate parents, that type of thing. And then I loved the end because we see a character that we haven't seen in the DC universe in so long, the Key. I don't know if you guys know who the Key is, but he fought the Justice League way back.
I was gonna say I know who the Key is from looking up those books here recently because he shares first appearance with some other Silver Age first appearances.
Yeah. So and who else is gonna dig deep into there are only a couple of writers who can do that, and Mark Waid is pretty much a DC walking encyclopedia. Yeah, I really loved it. And we get to see the Teen Titans, the original Teen Titans as well. It was just ticked all the fanboy boxes for me.
It did. It was really heartbreaking too. Like it's cool how they can write like this book that feels like almost like it comes with like it's almost like a naive level of positivity with the things that are happening around him. Like it's terrible events, but Robin's still lighthearted and Superman is like no worry on him at all. But then you get moments when they're sitting there trying to juggle, what do we do with this kid? Like we can't take him so volatile. He's basically a Kryptonian. We can't take him back to the Batcave. If he has an episode, we're not built for that. Superman, like I can't take him home because if he has one, Ma and Pa aren't built for that. What do we do with him? And in the midst of trying to figure out, he goes off and wants to go find his parents on this world. And that, it grounded the book. Like it feels so poppy and happy. But then this kid breaks his parents' heart on this world because on this world, he died as a child and they're still grieving over that. And that reopened that wound and it broke him. Like that moment when that dialogue, this kid just lost his parents twice in the same week. And you're just like, yeah. Like what do we do? Who would actually know how to help this kid? And they send him to the Teen Titans. I'm like, yes. So that's been one of the highlights of this book is the fact that it brings in guest stars nonstop. Mm-hmm. It kicked off with the Doom Patrol. We had Hal Jordan in there. Now we're bringing the Teen Titans in right off the rip. Such a fun book.
Yeah, I love the way it just like pulls from whatever it feels like and does something original.
We got that mashup of Superman, Batman, and Green Lantern.
Yeah, fusion. Yeah, that was really cool. And for those that are wondering if you follow DC Comics, like if you try to follow the bigger picture, this is actually an important book. It's not just like how the Batman Superman title for the past few years, you can just read it. And it doesn't matter if you read anything else. But the Batman versus Robin event that's happening right now spun out of the pages of the first arc. So this book is actually having bigger ripples into the greater DC continuity and stuff. So it's definitely one to pay attention to. And if you just want to be shocked with how good something just can be, this is it.
Yeah. And I mean, as you were saying from the top of it all, like Dan Mora's artwork stood out more than ever in this issue to me. I was just like, oh my God, every panel is so perfect.
Mm-hmm. I've never seen someone more built to draw Superman than Dan Mora. I don't know why.
Yeah.
He's just got that flair to him. I mean, there's been plenty of phenomenal Superman artists, but For 2022, Dan Moore is that guy.
Yeah.
All right, let's see what he's pulling. He's reaching. He's reaching. He's reaching. He's pulling. He's pulling.
Brady
Nightwing.
Bunch.
Yeah.
So I didn't read Nightwing. I'm way behind. I doubt I'll even catch up, but you guys take off on it.
Go ahead, Ryan. You want to go ahead?
I enjoyed this one. I honestly, I don't think there's been an issue I haven't really enjoyed, but this one to me was like great. This was the conclusion of the arc, right?
Yes.
It kind of wrapped up a lot of what's been going on since Tom Taylor took over. And, we got like this great setup. Like to me, like in retrospect, it really made all the other issues a little bit better too. Cause he introduced Heartless, and Heartless is like going around doing things, and we're just getting like all these little breadcrumbs and stuff. This issue like concludes with a definitive, like this is a villain to be taken serious. And like, we're done with what we were doing. Like we were just playing to the classic Nightwing fans or whatever, like now we're moving into a new era. And so I thought this was a great issue. Did some great things with Barbara and Dick on that front and setting up their situation moving forward. And so, yeah, like it was just like a really great wrap up that didn't feel like a wrap up, but did, if that makes sense, like it didn't come off as like, oh, this is like the end of the story. And like, it has to feel super special. Like it was just like tying these threads and then like setting up new ones in such a masterful way that it just felt like a really good issue.
Who is
Heartless?
Are they even revealed it? It's been like
Heartless
a year.
is a new villain, but he's actually going to star in the Nightwing Annual in a couple months. He's going to be the main villain in the Nightwing Annual. But basically, at the end of the last episode, we had basically Blockbuster, who beat the crap out of Dick Grayson, cause his mask to fall off. So now Blockbuster knows that Nightwing is Dick Grayson, but because of Heartless, it's really not going to matter. At the end of this,
Blockbuster
off the
What's that?
table.
Yeah, he's basically he takes his heart. What he does is he took his heart right out of him, and basically, so it's not going to matter.
That's crazy. I
He
thought
tells him-
Brimstone killed Blockbuster way back in '86.
I'm sure he'll be back, but Heartless is like, hey, like I had to modify this weapon to take your oversized heart, but that's quite all right because I have oversized plans for this city. Mm-hmm. So, like he's going forward, he's ready, and I had told you, but I don't know that you remember, like Blockbuster, like basically like caught Heartless off guard and threw him out of a window, and he fell several stories, and then he hits and he's all busted up. And so then you see him getting repaired and stuff, and you find out he's an android and he runs on hearts. So that's where the whole like Blockbuster's oversized heart thing is about to come into play. He's about to get
motives yet?
oversized.
Listen, see, I dropped out of Nightwing because I was reading it just digital, and just like Superman, Son of Kal-El, Tom Taylor's writing at a snail's pace. Like the fact that we're still dealing with Blockbuster and Heartless is the exact same thing we were doing in the very first issue that Tom Taylor took over of this title.
Mm-hmm.
So have they even revealed why Heartless yet? Like what's it?
I don't. They haven't given us like a definitive motive on what he's after. But
he can't just convert to electric?
Nah. No.
Yeah, he's looking for one of those power stations.
Just go get a Tesla battery and you're good. You don't need hearts anymore.
Yeah. Exactly. He's going green.
And like I can kind of see the cracks in Son of Kal-El. I can see where you would feel like that wasn't really moving. Nightwing is just like so wholesome that like there's so many times in each issue, like in this issue, right? He decides like him and Barbara kind of decide they're going to get together, but now people know who Nightwing is, so that basically puts Barbara in the crosshairs and stuff. And she's like, "You have to drop the Batman thing. Like that's not you, Right. And that's something that I really love about this book is that like it always goes back to like, Dick he doesn't have to be Bruce. Like he can move on. He can change the trajectory of what a vigilante and a superhero is, and I like that they like always kind of come back to that and they don't just like drag it out.
Their hearts are on their, remember like all the stuffed animals, they have little hearts on their butts or something.
Yeah. No, that's their whole thing is hearts.
Yeah. Now I enjoyed Nightwing when I was reading it, but again, it just wasn't I don't know why I just kind of stopped. I'm probably like 5 issues behind now. But I remember it being good, like the little issues with the Flash were awesome. When John came over there, that issue about broke my heart when John watched that dude die in front of him. When they that team came to try to assassinate him, and the Teen Titans popped in to help. And I remember hitting you up, Ryan, and telling you that was one of the coolest, most subtle panel tricks I'd ever seen in a comic, because the comic is laid out. That whole issue is laid out smoothly in little panel boxes like we are. But that one issue where they grabbed the assailant and hit him up against the wall, the actual panel cracked. And like they put him just barely into it, just barely. I felt that motion, and I'm a big fan of when I'm reading for it to be smooth and fluent. Nightwing definitely is. It's just
and actually this issue they do kind of like, there's like the whole overview thing, like, hey, we can make a change, blah blah blah. If it was a movie, you'd get your B-roll of just like all the city and everybody that's been impacted by what Nightwing's been up to, and so you see all the like Teen Titans and stuff kind of like out doing their thing and stuff, knowing that they live in a better world because Nightwing is their leader, So.
I'm shocked that this book hasn't been affected by Dark Crisis. Like they didn't tie into it. And Nightwing is like at the forefront of everything right now. Like right. I'm glad that he is. I'm also glad his title is not mandatory reading right now, because it definitely stands on its own. I can see myself trade reading it for sure, because it would read fast as hell.
Yeah, and it kind of, again, Heartless will be in the Nightwing Annual in a month or two, but it kind of rolled everything up and kind of completed it, and now I think 97 will be setting up. We got 100 in just a couple months, so I'm sure it'll be.
That is wild. Nightwing issue 100. That's the longest run of Nightwing they've done, isn't it?
I want to say he had more than 100 issues back in the 80s,
in 90s. 90s.
Yeah.
That's still pretty crazy to think.
Probably wrong on this, but did Jerry Duggan write the Rick Grayson thing?
No, that was Tom King started that. Tom King started writing Grayson originally. Yeah. Because he was a CIA guy.
The Rick Grayson thing where he had like lost his memory and all that.
He's talking about where he got shot in the head.
That was Jerry Duggan?
Was it?
Dan Jurgens was the guy who brought him back.
Oh, Jurgens. I might be miscompleting it.
Yeah,
I didn't read it. I don't know.
The series that was titled Grayson was Tom King and somebody else. They were co-writing together.
That was like a 007 take on Dick Grayson, right?
Yeah.
Save that one for last. Speaking of, let's go with Flash. Fire, absolute fire. So myself and Mr. Paul Cook over there, we say this almost every week, though. We recorded the DC Comics Dark Crisis deep dive for this week. Excuse me. Where we take the Dark Crisis tie-ins and event books, and we do a long-winded take on them and kind of cover them in great detail. So if you want a long-winded take on them in great detail, be sure to check out and subscribe to Sector 2815, because that video will be posting
tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock Eastern.
And be sure to go check them out. Hit that thumbs up and leave a comment, because it's mad crazy, massive giveaway at the end of all of it. I think we're going to do a live stream for it, right? Yeah, we're going to do a live stream for it. And the more of those videos that you leave a comment on, the better your odds are at winning. And I do want to plug that. Yes, that was it. So Flash 786. This is the final Dark Crisis tie-in for the Flash. This was the fourth part of this search for Barry Allen. Was that what it was called?
Yes.
So they found him. Last issue, they got him home. So I assumed that this book was going to just be kind of like the calm after the storm. It was not. This was like a tie-in proper. It picks up right where we saw the Titans and the JSA in that last issue of Dark Crisis on Infinite Earths, looking at the horrible state of the world and trying to figure out how to separate the forces to go make the most effective play that they can. And they've been running into this problem where whenever they show up somewhere, Deathstrokes, men, women, whatever, they'll just portal out. They go cause havoc and portal out. So they're taking advantage of having the Flash family to get there quicker. It was an awesome story, fun from start to finish. Wally's whole family was able to get involved. Linda's got powers now. They costumed her up. The kids went, and they went hard. We saw the Titans, the JSA, the Flash family hitting all sorts of problems all over the globe, and culminating with a big battle against some zombies and Clarion, the Boy Witch, and made some massive Easter egg hints of what's to come. Massive. This was a blast to read.
Yes, it really was. It was, and it had some, like yes moments in it, and then it had moments that really made you laugh. If you ever had kids, or you ever been around kids, they say whatever comes to their mind. That happens in this episode. I mean, in this issue, a couple of times.
Ryan, you know who Roy Harper is, right?
Arsenal.
You know how he wears the hat?
Mm-hmm.
So he's wearing like an actual suit, but with a hat, a backwards hat on or a forward hat on. So Wally's kid, while they're all just in the building together, just walks up to him. Why do you wear a hat? And he looks down, because I like it. And, are you sure you like it?
And then Damien says something, and again, his Wally's daughter says, "My mom says that people who are mean are just making up for their own inadequacies."
Yeah. And spoiler goes, "I like this kid," and walks off.
Yeah.
And then later, when they're just hitting all the different spots on the globe, Damien's about to get crushed, and she comes by and saves him, just swoops him. He goes, "I have that under control." The normal answer is "thank you," and just takes off. Like just killing him, man. So, there was a couple little moments like that all through it that just make you smile. Like Jeremy Adams has got these characters nailed, absolutely nailed. There's a large cast in this, and every single one of them, he had them just pegged. And Jay, his son, had a moment because Jay's got like super strength powers, but completely untested, but he's found the problem. Like he'll grab his sister and she'll run, but she stops and moves at her own pace, and it's dangerous for him, but they actually use that to their strength. Like they did like their own version of the fastball special where she just takes off, slams the brakes, and he just tucks up and just rocks. It was really cool. Power Girl, the JSA, sees that he's got strength and shows him a couple of things like the sonic clap and stuff. It was really cool. It was a fun issue, action packed, had all the heart that you could fit in between the pages. It was good.
Yeah, it really was. And Young Justice, the second one,
right there.
Basically, it was Young Justice fighting the Justice League and the Teen Titans. And they go back and forth again. Superboy Connor basically has fallen back to where he thinks that he just wants to stay where they are. And at one point he just says, "Why don't we just stop fighting and just agree to everything?" And it basically gets to the point where they finally determine that there is something wrong with what's going on, and it ends up being Mickey Mxyzptlk, who is the son of Mr. Mxyzptlk, who created this. We were talking, well, if you watch the video tomorrow, they kind of explain away some of the issues that we had with issue 2, in that because it was so off for the DC universe, but we basically come to learn as though Mickey has basically set up this world. And so while we're thinking of looking at the DC universe from an adult standpoint, Mickey has set this world up looking at the DC universe from his standpoint and from a kid's standpoint. And so that's why a lot of the things that happened in issue 2.
It's his version of the events, and it was Bart Impulse that noticed, like, dude, these are memories, right? They're definitely memories, but these aren't our memories. Like, those people didn't act like that. That's an exaggerated version of them, and they weren't acting like that. They would never talk like that, and that's how they busted him finally. So that excessive nature of issue 2 was pointed out. That's that specific character's take on their experience.
Right. And so that's at the end. Basically, we it's funny because the last line of the whole issue was pretty good because they have this Mickey, Mickey and Mrs. Pidlick, who is Mr. and Mrs. Pidlick's son, and I think it's Connor who says, "Oh, great, now all I can think of is Mr. and Mrs. Pidlick, Mr. Mrs. Pidlick having sex."
Yeah, which is a weird character. Was he a ninth dimension imp or something?
Yeah.
Very, very fun character.
And Norrin Rad talks about his antagonist for Superman. It is set up the same way. If you remember, Mr. Mxyzptlk was a fan of Superman. That's why he constantly came to this dimension from the dimension he was in. And Mickey says the same thing. To the three of them. He says, "I'm your biggest fan." So they're playing it the exact same way as the relationship between Mr. Mxyzptlk and Superman.
I like how many times you've had to say his
I
name.
know.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, let's just keep talking about this book and see how many times we can get Paul to say it.
He hasn't stumbled yet.
Right?
Awesome.
We practiced in the mirror before we went live.
I gotta be honest with you. I cannot say it backwards.
That's what I was about to ask you. I was like, can you say it backwards? And what will happen to you if you do?
I just disappear.
Ryan, what's another one you got that we didn't read?
The only thing I have left is Black Adam #4.
Well, we read that, so hold on. Berserker, number 10. Ryan, this book still is going on.
I'm surprised.
I thought it was only going to be 10 issues. Guess it's more. I know it's not ongoing, so I'm assuming maybe it's 12 issues.
Yeah, I was. It's kind of. I read it because I've gotten all the other issues, but it's kind of lost its steam with me because there's been so much time between issues that.
Yeah, and there's not a lot of content in each issue whatsoever. Right. This one was simply just him and the woman that works with him. They just pack up the team and head back to where he was created in those flashbacks in the early issues. That's all. I mean, a little bit more to it, but that's the synopsis for this book.
Yep.
For that issue, I'm definitely interested to go back and kind of read them because about 3 issues ago, it kind of took a turn to the supernatural a little bit more than the first half of it did. The first half was like leaning more to like the operations that they were running with having an immortal man on the team just to go plow through villains and rip people's rib cages out and stab them in the eye and stuff. It switched over to more of like, what is he really capable of? We know that he's like was created by some kind of what's represented like as a blue lightning bolt, this deity that his mom prayed for salvation and a blue lightning bolt came down and she was pregnant with him, this immortal child. And we also know that there was another lightning bolt that they haven't gotten into yet. But a couple issues ago, we saw that they put him in a bunker underground and they stressed him out to the point that we can see that he can release like a nuclear explosion almost. And when they did that, they did this whole issue where he's just kind of floating through space in like thought. And it got really weird. Like it was hard to follow. I'd have to go back and read it again because, again, those gaps between the issues really take the piss out of it. But this issue is kind of cool in the sense that he's sitting down across from the woman who's been trying to help him solve the mystery of who he is. And we found out that she has those abilities too, that she is not normal either. And they saw that they were able to communicate without speaking verbally. We saw that she was able to start manipulating some of those abilities. The people that she works for is aware that she's able to do that, and they're perfectly fine with it. So there's more to that. She's taking him back to his home because she wants him to confront the emotional trauma. Now they tested him physically. They need him to address that emotional trauma about the death of his mother so that he's prepared for what's to come. There's this idol, this metal idol that was created back in the past to finally kill him, to make him mortal. And that's when his mom died. It was buried in the past, physically buried in the past. And that's why they want to go there to get it. And they do. And when they do, he stabs himself in the hand with it because, you're supposed to pierce yourself with it. And when he does, like, he has this massive reaction. You see this huge amount of energy come out of him in the shape of that idol. And that's where it says to be continued. So there's a lot more going on. There really is. There's a great story in there. There definitely is. but it's in small piecemeal. It's so small and it's gapped out. So it really has to be put back together and probably read in at least like half up front, half in the back end. If you haven't already just been reading it as I am, I'm going to have to go back and read it. But there is definitely an intriguing story in there.
Cool.
Or just wait for the movie. It's coming.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Proof of concept, check.
Definitely sounds like it.
Kind of like getting exposed to strange radiation from a meteor like DC Immortal Man and Vandal Savage. Yeah. So, 2 books left for me. I've got Black Adam and my read of the week, Deceased War of the Undead Gods. This went so hard. You know what's crazy to think, Ryan? The same guy who writes this writes that snooze fest Nightwing. I'm just kidding.
Well, you know what I was going to mention earlier.
Like, he's so versatile.
You asked if I knew who Arsenal was, and like really the only reason I know who he is for sure is because I read 1 issue of Deceased, and he like slides down a zip line and then gets eaten by a bunch of zombies.
I highly recommend you going back and binge reading these series. It's a few miniseries. Yeah, because
there was an online one, I think, right?
Hope at World's End. There was the Unkillables. There's Volume 1. So Volume 1, the one shot, which comes in the middle of Volume 1. Unkillables, which was a 3-issue one that you follow what some of the vigilante-esque type characters, Red Hood, were doing. Then you have was it Dead Planet was Volume 2 property?
Yep.
And then they did Hope at World's End, which was a app first. And it's just a collection because there's a time jump in that first volume. It's what was happening during that time jump. And now you have the finale done proper, bringing in the 4th world, oh my God. Darkseid is my dude. Like it got crazy.
This version better than Darkseidosaurus?
Oh, dude, this version here, there's never been a more dangerous Darkseid than this one right here.
Exactly. The last page.
To tell you about it. Yeah. We're about to tell you all about it. I gave up on Berserker after 5 issues. The story was trudging along at a slower pace than a Tynan book. Yeah.
I can one up that. I gave up after 1 issue.
I didn't even think you read the 1 issue.
No, I read the first issue.
What is up, Kenneth Bird?
It was one of the most poorly paced books I've ever read.
Yeah, this would blow your mind, man. Deceased is nuts. All right, so we saw in that first issue that the anti-life virus has made its way back to the 4th world, to the New Gods, and that's where we saw that Supergirl got attacked, and we kind of left it hanging there. Superman is back. They were able to get the cure in that last volume. So this volume, they're setting out trying to cure as many people they can if they didn't kill them. Dealing with the trauma of not being able to cure some because you permanently ended their life, like Batman. Alfred's dealing with the trauma of murdering his entire adopted family. And but they were able to go out and save Superman. Like they started there. Like the most dangerous person in the entire universe is sitting in the middle of the sun charging up, and he's been there for years. We have to do something about this now. They were able to give him the cure. He's got a robotic arm because he lost his arm in previous volumes, which I think is just having a cyborg Superman finally, and it's actually Superman. That's so exciting for me.
You were just saying that because you thought the original Superman way back when was a cyborg Superman.
Yeah,
you're finally getting what you wished for.
I legit thought it was going to be him. So we get into this revisiting some familiar characters and some tragic stories. Barda was one that they were able to cure. Scott Free was a tragic character in that second one, but he's reunited with his wife, Big Barda, and she just wants to know where her son is. She feels terrible for this missing time with him. Unfortunately, he's on the 4th world. He's on New Genesis. So they travel to go see the son, and they find out that the anti-life virus has ravaged New Genesis, and those new gods have set off to dominate space. Forget what happens next. Oh, the Black Racer shows up, saves her life from going into a boom tube. The boom tubes being that is not just technology, but it's living technology or even corrupted by it. Nothing living can go through them. Darkseid's going through them, holding a mother box fired up with anti-life virus, destroying everything. And the first place they go to is, how do you say it? Sinestro's homeworld?
Corrigar.
Corrigar, ravaging Sinestro's homeworld. So the whole Yellow Lantern Corps catches wind of it, and Sinestro's like, we're not going to let this fly. Kyle Rayner catches wind of it, who's dating Sinestro's daughter, right? Mm-hmm. So they're like, they're all going to intercept. Sinestro's actually going there to do a good thing to stop them, and Kyle and his girlfriend stop them and say, you're not about to attack this planet, having no clue what's really going on. And they start to get into a spat, and next thing you know, infected Supergirl comes flying up and pops Kyle Rayner right in the face. A whole battle ensues. Just the first thing she does is she goes to Battle World. The Sinestro Corps is inside of War World, not Battle World. You know, Mongol's planet, Ryan. Sinestro Corps is in control of that. And Supergirl goes straight there and slams an infected mother box on it and takes over War World, which is like the largest weapon in all of the galaxy. And it just continues to get crazier from there when Darkseid finally shows up, just pushes through everyone, grabs Sinestro by the head, and removes it right in front of it. Just removes it. And I don't know what you know what a Green Lantern's ring runs on, right?
Willpower.
Yeah.
You know what the Sinestro yellow ring runs on, right?
Fear.
Not being afraid, but being able to instill fear. Mm. He just rips Sinestro's head off. That ring floats right up. You have the ability to instill great fear, and he just grabs it. So, dude, it would when he put that on, dude, I just got chills. So you have Darkseid fueled by the anti-life virus with all these mother boxes with an infected Kryptonian Supergirl next to him and the yellow lantern ring on, and that's how it ends. Just like
yeah,
bro,
it was incredible.
It was,
and the thing was too was, I mean, they could have done the whole ripping the head off two different ways. It could have been a one panel thing where it's just like a quick thing and you would have been like jolted, but you see the head, the hand over his head first, and then you see it clicks over to his daughter, and then you see just his face, and then when you flip the page, that's when you get the
motion of turning the page. Is like us, the reader, calls it to happen by turning the page.
Right.
He was trying to have a conversation. He was telling his daughter to get out of there, and he don't care. Right. The whole time you have Orion just pounding on the lantern shield. It was nuts, dude. You have the ability to instill great fear. Come on. That little grin he puts on.
Yeah, I mean, and I've always said, I mean, I love Tom Taylor. I love what he does in Nightwing. I love what he does in Superman Hell. But I always said that I think Tom Taylor is at his best when he's building worlds, and taking these characters and just, he did it with Injustice. He's doing it with Dark Knights of Steel. He's doing it here.
He did it with Earth 2 at New 52. That was
right, exactly.
That's why I fell in love with Tom Taylor, was that Earth 2 run. He created all that.
If Tom Taylor could just write Elseworld stuff, I think I would just be so happy, Yeah,
he absolutely crushes it. Like, it's Tom Taylor unrestrained, and it's phenomenal. Mm-hmm. Nightwing and Superman Son of Kal-El is like Tom Taylor light, but to his credit, he writes totally different style stories. He hits those beats with Kal-El and Nightwing where it's like these emotional draws. Like, you're just like, wow. And then he does something like this. It's just pure hype, shock, and awe, but the story he's crafting is still so solid. It's insane.
Yeah.
All right, Ryan, carry us home. Black Adam, issue number 4 of 12. Love that cover. Gorgeous cover by Rodriguez. I don't know the guy's first name. I just call him by his last name. Something Rodriguez, crushing it.
Yeah. So, like, reading this issue, I think I've said this in other issues too. Like, I feel like there's something to like Black Adam history and stuff that like I don't quite have, and so some things in this book I'm like, I don't know, like I'm not sure that I'm quite following what's happening, but overall, I'm enjoying it, and like, there's so many great moments, like in this issue, just to like throw it out there, like Etrigan shows up, so that's a win.
Well, now, real quick, there's a lot that they're just kind of recrafting in this for current DC timeline. The last time we got like a lot of Black Adam anything, like big building of the character developing other than just being present and fighting, was during the 52-week event. And that at this point is kind of scrap. That's why you got this issue. That's why they brought in the pantheon of gods, that whether he believes them or not, we are your pantheon of gods. Like, you can call us what you want, but we're standing right here. Believe in us or don't, I'm right in front of you. That's what you're getting. You're getting the current Black Adam origin as they want it to be right here, right now.
Yeah. I mean, I really enjoyed it. Like, Etrigan shows up and like basically teaches Homeboy how to use his powers, because there's no time like the present.
Use them or die.
Yeah. Like, it was so good. Like, him just in the corner of the room, just like destroying the wall.
I like how Malik didn't take him serious at first. He walks in and he just thinks it's another one of the ratty dudes that the girl that brings into the house. He's like, "Hey man,
that whole scene too, like, kind of reminded me of something you would see like in Milestone or like the Dakotaverse, just like very authentic characters, like in an authentic world. Like, his sister is basically a bum, He's like, "Are you looking for a job?" She's like, "Well, I try, but you always take your laptop with you,
so you don't pawn
from pawning it." Yeah, like, like, it's so grounded in real world in moments like that. So I really appreciate that. But then, like, he walks into the next room and Etrigan's there, just like throwing him out a window, like, fly. Like, no context, just fly or die. So that was really great. And then, like, all the stuff with Black Adam and like that pantheon of gods and stuff, I was like, I have no clue who these characters are, but
I don't either. They were being introduced.
Right.
Oh, okay. See, I was like, I don't know if I'm supposed to know who they are. Like, am I supposed to know Egyptian history? And these are like actual gods, or are they being created for this?
I wish I would have clipped the episode of At Week's End when we reviewed issue 1, and I said there's a lot of Egyptian history, and you're like, I have no problem with it. It's fine. It's cool. And now they're laying it on to us, dude. They are laying it on. But they did give us the cool reference page. I love when they give us reference page.
Yeah, that was really cool.
Everyone's name and how they relate to each other, which I read it 3 times. There's only like 3 relations on there. You have a father, a son, and then siblings. So,
well, and I love the way that it's laid out and the way you read into it, because you're like, so-and-so's father, and then like you read his and it's like so-and-so's son, It's like, man, that's well connected.
Yeah. A father,
and then, like, obviously, they make reference to like the Roman gods and what is it, the Norse gods, and like basically
that's
but by a different name.
Yeah, that's what I said. Like, hey, so Anu is Odin, right? So it's like I was just trying to place them, with gods that I was familiar with.
It was Odin or Zeus, whatever you want to call him. Anu.
Yeah, so that was like a really cool scene, and I love the way that they kind of explain it all. Like, basically, he went and picked up this virus, and then flying through space, he swallowed some space dust and like brought them to life, because they were basically just like microbial creatures like floating around in space, and he inhaled them in his space flight, and now they exist as like full-grown things.
Yeah, you literally have a god of mischief, a god of war, a goddess of destiny. You have a demigod, which in my mind that has to be Hercules. But that panel when Black Adam walked up to the door, and he tells him, "You are not my god," and his response is, "As if that matters. I am war." I'm like, dude.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a baller move there.
Adam's response was cool though. He goes, "Are you now?" Like, yes,
like not backing down, right?
Sweet. Yeah, it was a cool issue. It was really cool.
They talk about him like, the scene where they're like, oh man, what does he say? Like, he shared the power or something. And they're like,
meant to be shared.
Well, yeah, they're like, that's strange. That's not like you to share something. He's like, it was always meant to be shared. It's like, oh, okay, so he gets it. Like, he knows that he's just like a crappy guy, like he understands he was supposed to share this from day one, and he's just been holding on to it because he's a ego-driven narcissist.
Yeah, he finally learned that in the 52 run. He shared it. He brought Isis, his nephew, who unfortunately gotten eaten alive by famine, who was like represented as like a crocodile. Like I don't know if you remember from like Captain Marvel history, but they had like Thawny, the tiger, who was like part of their team. He could walk on 2 feet. He wore clothes. So when Black Adam created his Marvel family, and being that he's from Egypt, instead of a tiger, they had a crocodile. But it really wasn't what you thought. It was one of the horsemen of the apocalypse pulling a fast one. And the first time that his nephew depowered, he literally violently ate him, just slaughtered him.
Wow. Yeah, they also talk about that, right? Like his nephew that he sacrificed to steal the power from the magician.
That was
Or
mentioned.
from the wizard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Which is the character that he was following in the second issue or something, whenever he like flies up following that little kid or whatever. I was like, I don't really know what was going on there, but now like that makes a little more sense because he's like following a ghost of like something he potentially regrets doing. We don't even know, I guess.
They're definitely. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
The very last page of the issue, we get the name Sargon the Sorcerer, who, if you're in DC history, is one of the oldest characters, predates Superman in DC history. So, just incredible. So, looking forward to that, and maybe could that somehow tie into? Oh, this is supposed to happen though before Dark Crisis. So.
We'll see if timeline wise, if they'll keep it that way, or if we'll get like what we saw with Flashpoint Beyond, a simple timestamp. Now we're post Crisis or something, which that would be interesting to see because I would like to see this Malik character carry on.
Mm-hmm.
Like I definitely this kid's awesome.
Yeah. Oh man, whenever him and Etrigan are going at it, he's like flying through the street and he's just like quoting all the lyrics and stuff. Like he's like, "You're terrible at rhyming." Like, dude has a motor mouth, and I love it.
Mm-hmm. But that was all that I had for this week. You have any other ones you want to hit on?
That was all that I read. I'm looking forward this week. Although it's Nice House on the Lake comes back this week. Although it's been like 4 months since the last issue.
So it was supposed to take a halfway break, and it did, but then it came back with 2 issues, and then it took another small break. I have a feeling that this issue is going to be awesome. I have a feeling this one's going to finally deliver everything that we're looking forward to. It's issue number 10 of 12, and if you look at the top, the little circles above their heads, this is the last one that's highlighted. It's the last character. So after that, it should, like I said, it looks like we might hit like kind of character focus on these individually, but then it's just going to have to drive those last 2 issues.
Yeah.
And that last one, we watched her see what's behind the curtain. Like Walter walked her behind the curtain, so hopefully we get to see what's back there.
Yeah,
really looking forward to that.
Answers. I'm also looking forward to this Action Comics 1047 Kal-El Returns Part 1, the 3-part event that's going to lead us up to the big issue 1050.
With 1,050 different covers.
Exactly. there will be, and I'm not even saying this only, there will be a 1 in 1,050 ratio variant. So they've done 1 in 1,000 before, but to commemorate the event, there will be a 1 in 1,050 ratio variant. But more importantly than that, I highly, highly, highly beg everybody, please pick this book up.
I was about to say,
please, for the love of God, do yourself a favor and go back and get issue 1 of Superman Space Age. It's just a 3-issue, 80-page giant. Like that's 240 pages, no ads, straight book. It's a $10 price tag, worth every cent. That last one blew my mind. So far, for this year, single issue best comic books I've read, Superman Space Age #1 and One Bad Day the Riddler. Single issue best comic books. Like I couldn't pick one over the other, but I'd lean Superman because that's my dude. But I cannot wait to see what they do with that book. There's also a brand new one I want to bring to everyone's attention. I will be jumping all over this. Sergeant Rock versus the Army of the Dead, written or co-written by Bruce Campbell himself. that should be a blast. And you know what else returns this week, Ryan?
Yes.
That's right. Human Target.
Human Target.
It's back. It is back.
Yeah.
Wow. Where the comic vet? He is, for one, he can only stay so long with his new work schedule, but tonight he had a scheduling conflict come up at the last minute. He does not want to.
I'm glad Flo. I'm glad Flo showed up. So one thing I should have mentioned, I guess, in during the news segment, but I just thought about it right now. Tom King did release the first couple of pages from Gotham. Was it Gotham Year One?
Gotham Year One. Slam Bradley is back.
Yeah, yeah. So that's gonna be exciting. I'm ready for that. It's gonna be good stuff.
Yeah, we got so much Tom King. He's not going anywhere. Then he's got Danger Street coming out the month after that. And...
Oh my God, dude, I cannot wait. Danger Street's going to be fire. Creeper, Dr. Fate, Atlas, another Kirby DC creation.
Warlord.
Yeah, dude, it's going to be nuts. Absolutely nuts. And we've been waiting a hot minute for that one, so hopefully there's no midway break with it, because that one's Jorge Fornes is back with him on that one. I'm excited about that. Yeah, very excited. So there's a lot of good stuff to look forward to. So tomorrow, oh God, I'm glad I thought about that. Tomorrow I have a major Silver Age DC key that I got in that I'm shared out tomorrow, will be available at 7 a.m. And also a crazy package that Retro Rocket, Chris and Kelly up in Canada sent an AOK my way. So I got that as well as that DC key. And then Wednesday, I'll have the 1,500 subscriber entry video go up. It's available now for the channel members to see what the prizes are and to go ahead and enter. But it'll be going up Wednesday everywhere wide, and it shows a bunch of the prizes that are included, but there'll be more during the live show that'll be given out as well. Bunch of slabs this time around. We got some raw books in there as well. Probably some art pieces from Legal Burning. Who knows what else will go? Some merch will be given away. It's going to be a big giveaway. But yeah, so that entry video will go up Wednesday.
Nice.
Very nice. But yeah. Paul, tomorrow has the DC Comics Deep Dive. Don't forget to go subscribe to Sector 2815. And Ryan has his website,
cosmic-campfire.com,
where you can get his written material straight to your email. It's actually pretty convenient. So be sure to check those out. Appreciate everybody stopping by. And until next time, as always, I'm Mark, but we are Legion.
Wow! How awesome!
Whoa! You're real powerful.